out of everything that we're seeing with the 2A movement, where do you feel like our weak spots are when it comes to speaking to people who are outside of the gun culture?
Ooh, that is a really good question.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta think about this. Do you have anything to say immediately?
I feel like I talked a lot, but I'll try and keep it concise here. But I think it is the hobbyist nature of firearms. Trying to highlight the sport aspect of it, and rely on the merits of it's a fun thing for people to get into. It's not a political thing. It's not always death and destruction and whatever military hoorah, which is awesome. Again, there's that aspect to it of very much enjoy. But yeah, just speaking more to the hobbyist nature and trying to highlight, even internationally. I mean, we recently had an international shooting competition that was hosted in Europe, and the amount of people internationally getting involved in firearms is absolutely cool. This isn't exclusive to, this doesn't have to be exclusive to America. We can hopefully spread this to around the world and hopefully inspire other people to take action to, I would say, regain their rights in other countries. But from an American standpoint, I think we can do better at showing the hobby side of shooting. And from an enthusiast, normal perspective, that's kind of where I'd say. Yeah.
And even along the lines of gun laws and all of that, it really comes down to our freedom, if we really think about it. So it may not seem like outside of the industry, maybe a small little gun law may not seem like the biggest deal to some people, but it's a huge deal when you think about it, because if these people are taking these small steps and inching away at taking our freedom away, then eventually we'll be like we've seen with Canada. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling, but we've seen with Canada and other countries, just their rights being slowly taken away. And I feel like there's a lot that we can do as Americans. And as long as we educate people, I feel like we have a strong backbone to be able to make a huge difference.
Yeah.
What I love about what you said here, I'll save you.
Thank you.
What I love about what you said, though, is we want to see more people come into the fold. And there's a level of that also affects the international community. When you think about America and you think about freedom, we think of the firearms, and there's a lot of restoration that has to be done here at home. But, being the global hegemon, the impact that we can have of showing, the fun side, the shooting sports, getting people back into hunting. I mean, if we look at, for example, the average age of a hunter, that we could be losing the hunting tradition if we don't correct. And so much of the Second Amendment community needs to be about sharing with others, and so that people can look at the gun culture in the U.S. and not see a narrative that is talked about or is pushed by big tech and those that have a set agenda, but rather what true gun ownership looks like, which is personal responsibility, which is freedom, which is very family focused in so many ways. And so the fact that you guys are out there doing international competitions and, sharing a love of firearms with not only your friends in the U.S., but abroad, really helps move the movement forward, because we talk a lot about how government wants to pretend that they gifted us our rights, when in fact the Constitution is to protect our rights, because our rights are, natural rights. They precede government. They are protected. The Constitution is to protect those rights, not to grant those rights. And that means these countries that are in far worse shape as far as Second Amendment rights go, those people also have these inalienable rights. It's just their government doesn't recognize it, and maybe they don't have the courage to recognize it themselves. But the more that we show gun ownership and the more that we are able to protect those rights, because the United States is the superpower, the more we can have a positive effect on the entire world's view on guns.
I do want to make a just small correction, just so audience is clear. We haven't done any competitions internationally. I speak a lot about the international side of things just because that's my work in automotive space. And so, like, just small correction, but 100% agree with you there. I always think, just want to make that clear. But I always think in the terms of international, just because, like I said, we have a lot of friends that are international at this point just through the car connection. And it is felt around the world. Europeans are extremely pissed with their government and the firearms policies. And another side of it too is the whole Russia and Ukraine situation going on right now, where Poland is pushing hard. There's a big Polish movement to, I would say, like you said, restore their rights to protect and self-defense and have what we would call, our own militia. But independent security at that point, because it's become a real topic for them, and they're a lot closer to those situations than us Americans have ever been. So I'm a big advocate for a lot of our European friends to have the rights that we get blessed with, but also we're currently working to restore, like you mentioned. So
hearing you talk about your conversations with them and having a few conversations myself with some of your European friends, it's been interesting to see the perspective, because it's just something I never kind of thought about because I don't travel international a whole lot. And so hearing some of those stories and just their perspectives, it kind of just like, we're so similar in so many ways.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, they're just like us with less rights.
Funny you bring up Europe, and it's funny, we've talked about it on other episodes where we talk about Europeans wanting their gun rights back, and some European countries and how that have gun laws. As the average American looks at Europe and goes, "Oh, it's like Great Britain," because they don't know any better. They lump Great Britain in with all their anti-gun stuff because that's what we hear the most about. In Europe, there's a lot of countries in Europe that have guns. Now, you did bring up something. Alyssa brought up something interesting earlier, was Canada and the rights being stripped away from Canadian citizens. And we're seeing a few that I know of that have moved down from Canada into the US to keep those rights. Do you guys have anything you want to touch on that?
I mean, we don't have any like personal ties. I guess my brother-in-law is from Canada. And he still has family out there, but we don't have, other than that, we don't have a whole lot of like personal ties. I just get a lot of comments in my YouTube talking, like people from Canada, and talking about just, oh, I wish we could do that here, or, oh, in Canada, we just had this and this and this. So I hear a lot about it, mainly, honestly, from comments on YouTube is where I get most of kind of just hearing about it.
Well,
I'd say like one case that we do have is a lot of Californians moved to Utah and Colorado too. Colorado just had some recent stuff get pushed, apparently. I don't know, you guys probably are more aware of that than what I surface level knowledge, but we get all the time here in Utah is just how much freer it feels. We have a couple Californian friends that were like, I just feel different here because I don't feel restricted and feel like a criminal, or feel like, my door's going to be busted in because I put the wrong accessory on my gun, that's something we get a lot, but that's more interstate than Canada at this point. But yeah.
Well, I love how you brought up the YouTube comments from Canada, people in Canada and things like that. And that's one of the cool thing about doing YouTube is the comments you get from other countries. So I've gotten comments from Croatia. When the Kuna came out, people were like commenting about the Kuna and from Croatia. I've had comments from Brazil when I do tour stuff, the comments from Brazil, the Brazilian people coming in and just getting their different perspectives. I remember I got a comment the one time we're talking about the price of this gun in the US, and we're talking about it. And somebody commented, it's like, oh, in Lebanon, this gun is $1,400. It's $300 in the US, $1,400 in Lebanon, and it was Lebanon or somewhere on that side of the globe. I can't point fingers on the globe. I'm not very smart. I don't claim to be, but it's just cool to see not only do you doing YouTube, you're able to connect with a an audience in the US, and most of the comments and most of the stuff comes from the US and you get to talk to them. But the international stuff is really cool to see how the gun community is not just a US thing, but it does spread throughout the world.
Yeah, that's been one of the coolest things. We just had someone on the latest video we just uploaded. They're like, hey, do a video on like UK gun laws next, because they're from the UK. Mm-hmm. And so we're like, okay, if we get 150 likes on this comment, like we'll do it. So it's cool, like seeing just international, that community just come together. It's been pretty cool.
I think that comment has 135 likes right now.
It was very close.
So
we might be coming out with a video on that.
Hey, gun laws thing.
But yeah.
Next time, make it 250.
Yeah.
Up the bar a little bit.
But that's awesome. That's awesome what you guys are able to do and build that community. And it's so vital to the Second Amendment. You know, I think of several of the people we've been fortunate enough to meet at events. I remember one of my first years at GOA, I was part of our activism training. So the gun rights activism classes that we teach all over the place. And I was in Arizona and teaching a class, and this gentleman comes up to me and he's like, you have no idea how important it is for us to make sure we keep the Second Amendment. And he had actually become a U.S. citizen, immigrated from Australia because of the gun buybacks and everything that was going there. And he's like, you don't understand how valuable it is until it's taken away and there's nothing that you can do about it. And he's like, I refuse to live in a country that and go through this a second time. And so it was becoming an activist and had become a citizen. And those are the stories that really impact somebody. And all of these years later, I still remember him from that class because, you know, this is somebody who left his family, his career, and started all over again in the United States because the Second Amendment was that valuable to him. And then now he was going to do whatever it took to ensure that it was going to remain for his son and now his grandchildren. And I think that's so important for us, you know, who sit in a place of privilege where we have a Second Amendment in this country, to recognize that and to constantly be reminding ourselves that we not only need to defend our rights, but we also need to restore those that have already been taken from us.